So, as I'm waiting for my omelet, oh, there it is. But anyway, that's not it. And it's great to see you in this capacity.
It's great to see you, Zenny. Thank you.
I have to say, okay, first of all, what motivated you to run for city council?
That is a great question because I actually really mulled it over for a long time. I joined the school board, Oakland Unified School District School Board, back in June. I was appointed when Gary Yee was appointed superintendent. I was appointed to his seat, the District 4 school board seat. And that has been an amazing experience to really begin to learn the school district and also how it intersects with the city is a huge passion of mine. And I immediately found ways to bring the city and the school district closer together, and I love that work.
Yeah.
There's so much that can be done. And when Libby Schaff decided to jump into the mayor's race, it really got me thinking about that city council seat, the District 4 city council seat, and the fact that it would be open. And I really began to start having conversations with people in the city and with my own family about what about this idea of jumping into the race for city council. And I just couldn't get it out of my head. So,
what was the aha moment where you just said, doggone it, I'm going to do this?
You know, there was actually a pretty personal moment where I went back to my home, to Western Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, to visit my parents because my dad was in the hospital, and I had a long period of time while I was there with him, with not just my dad but also my mom and my brother and my aunt and uncle and 4 cousins, and just reconnecting with myself and with my family back in Western Pennsylvania, where I'm from, gave me this time and this space to really think about what I wanted to do next. And it just became really clear that as a mom here in Oakland, raising my family, the way that I really feel like I can contribute best to Oakland is to be on the city council.
Did you get any advice from your husband who ran for mayor before social media and one of the greatest campaigns I've ever seen? Sorry, Glenn, I just had to put that in there.
Well, I have to say, I have such a huge appreciation for Glenn because he stepped back and let me really think about this myself, and he was there and had a lot of conversations with me about it, but didn't push me one way or the other. But once I decided, he's full on board. He's so excited.
What, I have to ask, because you were Gene Kwan's chief of staff, so you're closer to the city than I think most people. What did you learn there that you believe is going to that you're going to bring to bear on your term as council should you win, council member?
Right. Well, actually, I have this long history at the city of Oakland. I started at the city way back in 2000 as a budget and operations analyst.
Right, from the Goldman School.
That's exactly right.
I remember
That's exactly
that.
right. I'm a numbers person, and I really fell in love with the city through that job. I've always wanted to take a job that helps people and really contributes to the community. And when I found local government and found it here in Oakland, I was just hooked. My heart is really here. And I had the opportunity to join the city manager's office pretty quickly after I came on board the city, and worked for Robert Bob at that time. And then Mayor Jerry Brown asked if I would come and join him and be his chief of staff. So that was a real eye-opening experience for me. It was my first experience working in a politician's office, and learning from Jerry Brown was pretty incredible.
How was it different from what you learned at the Goldman School? I mean, because it was like
Well, it's very different.
Yeah.
I think learning in an academic setting is completely different than learning on the ground in the city hall.
Yeah.
And it's, you can learn a lot of theory at school, but when the rubber hits the road, it's sort of, when you're in the middle of a crisis, I really think a lot goes to who you are as a person and where your values are and how you can contribute your thoughts and ideas to the problem at hand.
Any particular crisis you want to talk about in that context? Occupy, perhaps?
Well, Occupy is a great example. I think that Occupy, after the worst of Occupy, is when Mayor Jean Quan asked if I would come and be her chief of staff.
Right.
And both of her deputy mayors had decided to leave the office at that time, and I really thought long and hard about that job. And I decided to join the mayor's office because I really felt like it was a moment in time where I could make a huge impact and a huge difference. And came into that office with a lot of optimism and enthusiasm and feeling like we can really do some good work here in Oakland. And I think that's what it's about. I think it's about, even in very difficult times when a lot of people across the city are in disagreement about how to move forward, it's about staying true to yourself and being strong and figuring out some solutions to move forward.
What is your position on the idea that we need more police or less, or how do we finance?
I absolutely feel like we need more police. I really believe that number of 900 police officers is where we have to be headed. We have to get on a path towards 900 police officers. So I was very happy that the budget that the mayor put out and the city council adopted was heading toward that path. But we have to stay focused on that. I think that the most positive thing for me right now is that Oakland's future is very bright. I think that we are really set up for a positive year this year, and if that happens, we'll start to see additional revenues coming in. And I think we have to stay focused on our true goal, which is getting to that 900 police officers. In addition, I believe that renewing Measure Y, which is the violence prevention measure, is just going to be imperative. And I know that there's a lot of worry in the community about how that money will be spent. And I really believe that City Hall has to unite with the community and start to begin those conversations about why it is so important.
What is the fear? Talk to that for my viewers who may not be informed, because a lot of people who are new to Oakland and don't know what Measure Y is about. Maybe you could tell them, perhaps? It's like,
Well, Measure Y was passed as a measure to marry violence prevention programs with additional police officers. And those police officers were meant to be community policing officers, problem-solving officers on particular beats. And I was actually heavily involved in the implementation of Measure Y in the early days, and we had a great group of people around the table. We had the probation chief, we had really strong relationships with the county. In fact, we had the probation chief on the Measure Y Oversight Committee, which was really incredibly helpful, with our police chief. And our fire chief was also on the oversight committee, now that I think about it. And so the early days of Measure Y implementation were very strong. And the thought partners that we have in our Department of Human Services around the violence prevention work are incredibly important to the future of this measure as well, because I believe that we have incredible programs going on that have been funded through Measure Y, and we haven't done the best job really getting the message out to the community about what Measure Y has done. So I think it's imperative on City Hall to do the job of telling the story of what Measure Y has done and how it's really, it can never be the full umbrella of funding that we need for public safety here in Oakland, but it's an incredibly critical piece to that puzzle.
Now, what are your thoughts on Operation Ceasefire? The mayor mentioned it, or State of the Union, which I don't know what you thought of it. I thought, and I've said this, the video that I made is out, and I said it was really, really great. So, but what did you think of? What's the story behind Ceasefire and these programs? Are they actually working in your view, or
I missed what you said. Are they working?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do. Yes, I absolutely believe Operation Ceasefire is working, and I believe that the problem had been in the past that it hadn't been implemented correctly. And now Mayor Kwan asked her public safety advisor, Reagan Harmon, to lead that effort. She's working hand in hand with Assistant Chief Paul Figueroa, and they really have begun to create that structure, that sustainable ceasefire program that is really being implemented the way that it should be. And it's showing results. So we had a very positive ending to last year. I believe we were down by 40 homicides at the end of last year.
Right.
But we need to stay vigilant. It really is a program that you have to continue to do the hard work, and as soon as we relax, the violence creeps back. And so it's something that you actually have to have committed city employees that are working on that on a daily basis in order to make an effect.
Now, in terms of our sports teams and organizations, open-ended question I ask every person running for council or mayor: where do you stand on the retention of our sports organizations?
I am hopeful that we can still keep all three teams. I really feel like we have to keep the pressure on. I know that we have an amazing group of people who are working to keep the A's and are working on that all the time. The city has kept the focus on preparing two really strong sites that the A's can consider, and that one is difficult because I think it's just really keeping the pressure on Major League Baseball and keeping the pressure on Lou Wolf, the owner, to show that Oakland can get this done. The Raiders, I think the city has, again, maintained very positive relationships with Mark Davis, and I believe the Raiders really want to stay.
The mayor told me she had lunch with him last Thursday, I think it was.
Well, good.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not in the mayor's office anymore, so I don't know all the nitty-gritty details of her schedule anymore.
Wait a minute, I'm ahead of her now. Ooh. So anyway, it's like, anyway.
Exactly.
FYI for you.
Exactly. Yeah, so I left Mayor Kwan's office at the end of January, so I'm taking a little breather. I'm just focused on school board right now, so I don't know the nitty-gritty details as much anymore. As much anymore, but I know quite
I didn't expect you to necessarily know that, but I was just adding to what you were saying.
No, that's great.
Like,
that's great.
What is it about District 4 that when you come in, and when you think of District 4, you think, I got to fix this or help with this?
Yes.
Anything, because that's the meat of what a council member is going to be doing.
Absolutely,
right? So,
absolutely. I have to say that one of the things I'm really looking forward to as a council member is being able to be in that role where I have one-on-one relationships with people living in the district and have the ability to listen to issues and problems and help them find solutions. I know for a fact that the number one issue on a lot of people's minds in District 4 is public safety.
Right.
And it's something that the whole city is united as feeling it's the number one issue, but each district feels it in a bit of a different way. So in District 4, I believe burglaries are very high priority.
Yeah.
And I also feel that the reorganization that happened in the police department where we broke back up into 5 areas has helped with that a bit. I think people are starting to know now who their captain is, who their problem-solving officer is.
Right.
And I think continuing that, those relationships and really forming deep relationships between the community and the police department is always going to be very helpful. But I'm actually really excited to be on the campaign and really listening to what everyone has to say.
You're in your element, aren't you? Because I remember, and I wrote about this, folks, I'm not talking out of school, but I remember when the Dellums people got rid of you, if you will, because you hugged someone at council. And I thought it was the stupidest effing thing in the world. So, but you care about people. And what they should have retained you, and they should have, expanded that. So when Gene hired you, as you know, because I wrote about it, I was very happy. So, but you're in your element now, huh?
I do love people. I really do. My heart is in this work. My heart is in this city. And I did take a break for a couple of years, at the last 2 years of the Dellums administration, and I went to work at the Stewart Foundation in San Francisco, an education foundation, which was a fantastic opportunity. And it also gave me a little breath from the city for a couple of years, which I think was really important for me.
Did that change your perspective of Oakland in a sense? It sounds like it did somewhere in there. Or am I just seeing things?
In some ways it changed a bit, and in some ways it made my love for Oakland even stronger because I could hardly wait to come back. And it made me realize that I was in the right place. And when I got back to the city, I was so welcomed there that I felt like this is my community, this is my family. I love the employees that work in the city of Oakland, and I feel like there's a part of a city employee that the real crux of the matter, the real reason why they started that work is because they want to serve the people who live here. They love this community, and they really want to do good work for the people who live here. And it makes me feel good to be a part of that.
And I have to ask this because if I don't ask it, someone will look at this and say, why didn't you? But I have to ask you about, like, the workers' strike. If there's anything you wanted to redo, or that if you were able to wave your magic wand and change, now that you're not tied to the mayor's office, what would that be? Would it be the workers' strike or how it was handled? I'm just, I'm curious.
I think more than anything what I learned from that experience is that I believe that there's always a way to come to agreement. I really saw negotiations with our labor unions in a different way because I had never really been that intimately involved with labor negotiations, and I wasn't at the table at these either, but I was able to be there for part of the time and really see the two sides interacting. And for me, it gave me a whole new appreciation for the process and how that there's always a way to find agreement. And that's the part that I want to carry away from it is to know that moving forward, we can always find a way to come to agreement with our employees.
Yeah, would you have done anything differently if you were able to, if you were mayor, for example, or anything?
It's so hard to say. It's a really complex process, and there are so many details involved in the agreements that it's hard to say pinpoint one thing that I would have done differently.
Yeah, good answer. So, anyone watching this, if they want to support you, what can they do?
They could send me an email. I have an email address that's long because I have long names. So it's Anne, A-N-N-E, Campbell, just like the soup, C-A-M-P-B-E-L-L, Washington.
That is a long
I know, at gmail.com.
I'm used to seeing it. So.
I know, exactly. Anne Campbell Washington at gmail.com. And that's the best way right now to reach out to me. And very...
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's okay. I was just going to say very soon I'll have my website up and we'll be able to link to people that way.
And one other thing, since you and I have been in Oakland a while.
Yes.
How, in your view, has Oakland changed over the time that you've been in Oakland?
Oh, wow. I think it's the vibrancy, right? I really believe that Oakland has this energy now, and people can feel that we're really on the cusp of something. I'm a total optimist, so I always feel like we're just around the corner from something amazing, but I really feel it now. When you're out at night, you feel the vibrancy. I really believe our artist community is thriving, and you can feel that. And that energy is why people are really starting to notice Oakland in a new way, and it's very exciting for me.
Well said. Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.